Welcome to the Carpet Cleaning Success Podcast. AI Marketing Experts is your backstage pass to the future of marketing. Hosted by a powerhouse crew of AI-savvy entrepreneurs, including John Clendenning, this weekly show unpacks the tools, trends, and real-world applications of artificial intelligence in digital marketing.
Welcome back to the AI Marketing Expert Show. We are welcome to be here and happy to talk about AI stuff. I figured today that we would kind of go through and kind of give our why of why we are doing this. And we're just going to go around the room, quote unquote, and talk about why we're doing all this stuff. And if you will, go ahead and start off, Laura.
Well, I'm Laura Sutherly with Agtivation, and our focus is on precision ag dealerships and ag equipment dealers. And my why, I've been in the industry over 25 years and had a fantastic time doing it. And of course, seeing changes just as everybody has. But what has really intrigued me about AI, and the reason why we're really leaning into it, is I saw my team get excited again. It added to their creativity, and all of a sudden it was, hey, let's see what we can get, do deeper dives than we normally could. Our precision ag dealers are busy, especially when it comes to planting and harvest. They're actually right now they're busy all year long, but there's different times of the year that's very hard to ask them to join us for a meeting or sit down for even a quick Zoom call. Let alone get to them face to face. So what it's allowed is AI has allowed us to do the research for them and actually present some topics, some assistance, especially as seasons change, that we're able to dial in their marketing so much to a more of a hyper personalization. So that's one reason why the Agtivation is really enjoying educating ourselves and learning more about AI all the time.
Awesome. Love that. Brad, why don't you tell us about it yourself and why are we doing this thing, you know?
Sure, Chris, no worries. So I'm Brad Kilgore from America's Best Shops, and we work closely with vehicle repair shops. And when I say that, I mean automotive repair, motorcycle repair, RV repair, truck repair, all those types of shops. And on pretty much several times a week, we talk to some shop owner, and they need help with their online marketing. They want to implement AI. They know that they need to in a lot of cases, but so many times, and I've said this many times over the years, is shop owners, I don't care what industry you're in, they're really good at what they do. Whether you're a roofer, whether you're an ag dealer, or any industry you're in, you're probably really good at what you do. But maybe not necessarily the online piece, and certainly because AI is changing so fast and everything else, most business owners or people in general they're overwhelmed. They're like, I have no idea what to do with this stuff or even where to start. And so, we're able to help. We've been able to help shops for many years with the online marketing and generating more business from the internet and all those types of things. But what now, and literally in the last few years, I'd say about a year and a half, 2 years now, we've really been plugged into the AI world and how that all plays out for success. And if I were to, give you just a small piece of information, is literally because the five of us are on the cutting edge of the AI space, we're seeing how things are changing so fast, daily, weekly, monthly, like to the point where we're looking at content that was a month old and we're like, well, that's old news. That's old news, because it's evolving so quickly, and it's only going to go quicker and faster and bigger and better. And so that's why I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it, but I'm really tuned into helping other people, specifically business owners, learn how to leverage it and save time with productivity and all the things that it could do.
Love that. Love it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think that, you're right. It moves at such a fast pace. We have a hard time keeping up. So imagine, if you're brand new to AI and trying to figure that, how are you going to use it for marketing or operations or anything like that? How do you keep up with that? So yeah, Yeah. John, why don't you tell us about your story, who you work with, and really why you're doing this?
Yeah, good question. So John Clendenning, carpet cleaner marketing masters, 30-year veteran of cleaning companies, started in high school with a window cleaning company and then jumped over the side of 40-story buildings for a while and then decided, well, that sucks. And then kind of came to the ground, opened a janitorial company, then carpet cleaning, built a multi-million-dollar cleaning company in a town of 30,000 people, and then have coached and trained people how to do the same thing since 2007, 8, and then sold off all my brick and mortar stuff and about 4 years ago now. And in the meantime, had already helped businesses with marketing and then digital marketing, and then built the entire agency. And now we work with hundreds of carpet cleaners and have a very large team. And this is all we do. AI, again, obviously helps us. Like the agency world, there's things that we can do more, faster, more efficient, better for our clients, all of that kind of stuff. Where I really see the need to lean in, and one of the main reasons why this group, this people listening to this show that are business owners, maybe agency owners, maybe whatever, but ideally, business owners running service businesses of some sort, egg businesses, those kinds of things, spas, all that stuff, really have to understand that AI is transforming the world around us. It is actually, I'm just pulling up some trends and stuff. It is the number one trending topic for small businesses in 2025, according to BizTech Magazine and a bunch of other places. It is what everybody's leaning to. Everyone, our software tools, our QuickBooks, and our you name it, are all adding AI into it. Heck, our fridge is going to add AI into it next, right? So tell us when our vegetables are spoiled before we have to sniff test them. But so if it's that becoming that ubiquitous to the world and the marketplace, I was just teaching my in-laws in their mid 70s. What the heck is AI? Well, download this app on your phone. Let's play around and stuff like that. And just how to fix something, how to do something, take a picture of it, ask it what it sees and what it, is there a problem with this or whatever, repairing a lawnmower, that kind of stuff. Well, we could do that in business. We can repair our equipment. We can upload spreadsheets and say, can you find the flaws? Can you find the anomalies? There's a million use cases. So as we have these shows, we're going to be showing and telling and teaching and suggesting and laughing and telling stories about how we're using it and how our customers and clients and other business owners should be using it and starting to lean into it, because it's going to be a first mover advantage before it becomes the great equalizer. So think of AI video. All of a sudden, everybody can create videos. How many more videos will show up every single month? How do you get yours to then stand out? Now it's a bigger question. So if you're not even in the game, you're behind. If you're in the game, now you're your first mover advantage until you end up becoming in a flooded marketplace. And it's still always going to be, now how do we use it to stay ahead? So it's just lean in, learn from everywhere you can, and stay up on everything that's going on.
Love it. Yeah, 100% on everything that you said there. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Jen, why don't you tell us about yourself and give us your why? Why are you doing this?
Okay, so I'm Jen Crego. I'm the founder of Margo. We help aesthetics and wellness practices really stop chasing leads and start building brand equity. So my why I got into particularly this show with you guys is because as I have been playing around with AI and have seen firsthand what it's doing for me and my business and my clients and things like that, it's just opened up like just so much opportunity in the way of doing things, better, smarter, faster, all of those things. But early on, what kind of made it a priority for me was whether I was talking to clients or talking to just people in the industry, it was a lot of women, and something that they were saying a lot was something that really resonated with me. And it was, I cannot possibly add one more thing to my list of things to do. And at that time, this was like I'm going back 2 years ago now, we were still having a lot of our clients approve content before it went out on the website or, social or whatever. And that's where things would get hung up. That's where things went to die, is when they have to wait for that approval process. And at that point, it was like, okay, but we have to wait for approval because they're going to have feedback. Mm-hmm. At the same time, if we wait for approval, it's not going to go live. And so this was this constant struggle for us as an agency, but also for the clients, because they're just as busy as we are. And so it's just really hard to make time for that. And so AI entered, because now we can train AI to be their voice for them, to be their, their thought partner in how, things get approved and things like that. And so that level of oversight, meaning less oversight, is only possible because we have so much time, effort, and trust in the systems that we're creating with AI. So that's made a big difference for us and for clients. And the aesthetics industry in particular is so competitive. I think that marketing, like digital marketing, is probably the only industry that I think is right up there with competitiveness as medical spas. And AI has been a way that the smaller shops, the smaller locations, they can raise to the level that they need to be in order to be competitive, in order to make sure that they're not overtaken by, as far as the market goes, overtaken by the big one that just went in, a half a block away. So that's, I think, yeah.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And you're right. It's competitive, right? Every single one of our who we work with, it just gets more and more competitive every single year. Yeah. And small business owners wear more and more hats all the time, right? And so, I'll tell you guys my name is Chris Hunter. I work with roofing companies and roofing company owners and help them double their business. My business is roofingsites.com. I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. That's who I work with to help them with started out with their websites and then turned into marketing and then turned into now all this other stuff too, right? And that's where AI is helping me. And just like every single person here, my journey started honestly about 3-4 years ago when we started using a tool called Jarvis that I'd heard about, right? And what did they end up calling it? Jasper, because they got sued, I think, by Disney or Marvel on that one, calling it. But it was such a cool software that would help you create content. And as a digital marketing agency, content is one of our hardest things that we have to produce. Just like Jen was saying, how do you not only make good content, but how do you put it in the client's voice and all that kind of stuff? And Jarvis had this really cool way of creating this content. And our writers who still are with us we were paying them, per article kind of a thing, right? And so we saw it as a way to augment what they were doing, right? And help them generate even better content and so forth. So we started down that path. And then when ChatGPT came out, what was that, November 2 years ago, I think, 2.5 years ago at this point, right? I heard about it and I was just like, okay, this is cool. Let me go check it out. And me and my operations manager at the time were really getting into it, and really figuring a lot of things out. Long story short, we really have transformed our entire agency in the past, couple of years on how we do things, right? If you'd have looked at, I mean, when I first mapped out, honestly, how many writers we were going to have in order to get to my goal, we were going to have like 50 writers, right? And it was a ridiculous amount of people. And we were like, at that time when we mapped that out, for 5 years down the road, we're like, how in the world are we going to do that? And that's not how you're supposed to think, but that was always in the back of my mind. But when ChatGPT came out, when Jarvis came out, right, that started solving that issue of how we were going to do that. We were going to keep the same amount of people. They were just going to be a different role. They weren't going to be a writer. They were going to be a content editor, essentially, right? And so we started down that path a while ago. And honestly, I've just gotten deeper and deeper and deeper into it, like every single person on this panel has, right? So with that in mind, that's why I am doing this, is because one, we've all been hanging out as a mastermind group and we talk about AI and geek out about AI all the time. So we just figured that we would just hit record and talk about it here. Right. And so if you enjoy, or you're whether you're a beginner in this whole AI world, not quite sure what ChatGPT is or can do, right? We're going to talk about all of this. I'm sure in the next, I don't know, probably years, we're going to progress here and help everybody out. Okay.
And I think I'm going to just jump in and say, I think one of the main things too, especially about the way this group has come together is, and I think what we're hoping to help the audience as well, is to eliminate some of the ones that may have caught attention and then did not live up to expectations. So we're able to really provide our viewpoint and maybe get them to where they need to be faster. And, to your point, Jen, about the content and what Chris mentioned as well, is even to that element, what we're able to produce saves our clients and saves them so much time, because it is, as you said, trained in their voice, and we're able to get approval. So all these things work together. And again, we're just hoping to take all these bits and pieces and say, okay, from this group, this is what we found that's going to be the most powerful tools at this moment.
100%. Yeah.
Well said.
Okay. So with that in mind, now that we've introduced ourselves, let's talk about prompts, right? Because this is where everyone starts. This is where a lot of people get stuck. This is where a lot of people honestly mess up, right? And they're like, oh, that didn't do what I wanted it to do, kind of a thing, and they give up. So let's talk about our kind of some of our best tips here of prompting. Okay. First, let's start with, what the heck is a prompt? Anyone?
Well, I'll jump in and say that a prompt is the first question that you're going to ask any large language model. And that's what we refer to as LLM, or it could be whether it be ChatGPT, which we may reference a lot, but we're also talking about Perplexity, Claude, Grok, there's so many out there. But so if we mention ChatGPT, feel free to try those same questions. But that's basically a prompt, is the question, you're opening it up. And sometimes that could be the most intimidating thing. So I think we're going to break it down as to parts and pieces that you can ask with that prompt in order to get information back, and not just to accept what just is automatically presented. Challenge it, question it, and again, be the human to review it.
One good point to add to that, Laura, is so one way to understand, and this way, again, explaining to my 70-something-year-old in-laws, the LLMs know everything, which is a problem. It sounds great, but now they don't have a lane. They don't. So when you ask a question, understand that the answer is coming from the entire knowledge base of the internet and planet Earth, and for Grok, also on every single tweet and X post and all in the history of time, all combined together into a big melting pot of information, and you haven't given it a lane. So one of the best things is to give it a role. So that we've always talked about that. We talk about like the basic framework. One of them is CRIT, context. What am I trying to solve? R stands for role, who you are. I, interview me, and then T, then ask for what's the task that you want it to do. But if you don't give it that role, you don't say you are a university expert or professor level, macroeconomics major, blah, blah, whatever. And now with that in mind, I'd like this type of, go down. Now it goes, oh, from everything, I just have to worry about this. I don't have to worry about the price of tea in China. I don't have to worry about how to grow grass in England. I don't it literally knows everything. So it could give you an answer that is sort of hallucinating from everywhere, which we see. Bring it into focus. Always think of that. And, garbage in is garbage out. So just ask good questions and have conversations, but give it its lane first. And you're infinitely better answers just with that little bit.
And I'll chime into that. I mean, I don't know that I have anything quite as scholarly or verbose to say as our last two friends, but just think of it as a conversation. I was training somebody recently on how to use it, and they were confused. And I said, okay, well, you're just first of all, as John said, and as Laura touched on, is set expectations of act as a professional copywriter who excels at writing content for roofing companies. And so, like say, preface it with what who you want it to be, so to speak. And then literally from there, when you're prompting it, you're asking it a specific question. So if you just say, make me a picture, that's not going to go so well. But if you're describing a piece of content, whether it's written or visual, and you can go into great detail and say, okay, act as if blah, 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 and then create a piece of content that is 2,500 characters long, that doesn't include case studies, does include FAQs, and is going to be able to be understood by a fourth grader, and tell exactly the details of what you wanted to do, and then even end your prompt with, and ask me any questions for clarification. And then once it's done and it sends you something nice, you're like, whoa, that was really cool. Especially when people first see it, they're like, holy moly, I can't even believe that it just did that. But once it's spit out this large piece of content, I asked for 2,500 words. Again, from there, you would just say, looks great. Now now act as a social media marketer and create me 10 social media posts in long form with emojis that make breakfast for me, or whatever, And so you're just telling it what you're asking for. And if it makes a mistake or it doesn't get you what you want, because typically at the end, it will say, and what do you think of this? Do you want me to do this? It will communicate with you. So just think of it as a conversation with your virtual assistant, essentially.
Yeah. And I want to jump in here and throw in that those are great. Prompts are great, all that kind of stuff, but a prompt is only as good as what ChatGPT, Grok, any of those know literally about you, right? And about your situation, about what you're trying to accomplish. So the prompt is great, but I think, and John sent this out to our group earlier this week about this master prompt idea, right? Of that Hayden, I had to look it up. Hayden Miyamoto, right? Talked about in a video. We might share it down here, below this, but he talked about training it and continuing to train. And when I say it, I mean whatever GPT, whatever LLM language learning model that you're using, right? And the more that it knows about you in the context of you and what you're trying to accomplish, the better that the output is going to be. Okay. So as an example, I've created a personal GPT. Okay. In ChatGPT, you can create these custom GPTs if you're on the Plus program or above, right? I've created a personal one, and I did that a long time ago, and I keep adding to it. Okay. But it knows my goals. It knows my employees. It knows my businesses. It knows, my wife's name, and it's weird because you're like, okay, I'm putting this out there. Who all's going to have this information? I don't worry about that as much because the internet already has pretty much all that information. Okay. So I'm less worried about that. I don't put in my bank details. I don't put in my credit card details. I don't put in my social security number or any of that kind of stuff. But, giving it as much context as I possibly can for what I am trying to accomplish as an individual gives me a way better output because it already knows that information, right? It already knows about me. And when I say it again, any kind of prompt that I give it, okay, and that's whether I'm using Claude, whether I'm using Chat GPT, whatever I'm using, I'm trying to train that model as much as possible on me and what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jen.
I was just gonna say, I love that, Chris. I think that for those of us who are in it a lot, we're training our own GPTs, and that has become invaluable for us. If there are other users who they're not quite there yet, and they're just in regular good old Chat GPT or the basic. Using the speaking ability on your phone to be able to just speak it in like that. Sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much context that I want to give it. I don't have time for that. But if you don't make time for it, then your result isn't going to be as good. So use the speaking ability. And then if you are typing though, keep in mind that as people, when we're looking at text on a page, if it's what I call like a wall of text, we kind of skim it a lot and we don't necessarily retain what's in the middle. And ChatGPT can be very similar when you just have this wall of text. So like chunk it up for ChatGPT too. Like John's, you mentioned the crit method. And so you might put like context this. I'm spacing on the R, but I interview. And so, like chunk it down like that to help ChatGPT or whichever one you're using give you the best result.
Do you want to hear my super hack from the week? Because it ties right into this. And I've been sitting on. I was going. I can tell this one. Okay, so what we're talking about, mega prompt. We talked about the whole story of Chris. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can teach a GPT how to do that, or you can have a long Google Doc, Word doc that when you go to talk, you load it in. Remember that little plus button is going to be important because you can add in source documents. So instead of going, oh, go figure it out for me, here is the whole entire source documents I want to add in. So this is kind of the key point. What I was doing and where I figured this out is I went into Notebook LM, which is a free Google tool. Notebook lm.google.com. It comes with your Google account. It comes with Google Drive and all that kind of stuff. And I uploaded a couple of videos from a content creator plus a framework on a Google Business Profile optimization plus, and it's just a couple of new ideas that are coming out. Agency world want to do better, all that kind of thing. And now that was its context. The one thing about Notebook LM, it only reacts to that context. It doesn't necessarily go out to the world and find other stuff like ChatGPT would kind of go, oh, and then there's all this other stuff I know as well, and you have to dial it in. Notebook is like if you give it nothing, it does nothing. It's a lot dumber in that way, right? But when you give it the context and fill it up with up to 50 potential sources, YouTube videos, it can read all the transcript and all that stuff. It comes up. So I was asking a bunch of questions back and forth, and it was supposed to give me a better answer than it did, right? But it wasn't bad. So I copied that answer. I went over to ChatGPT and I asked a very similar question in ChatGPT, and I got an answer from ChatGPT. Then I went back to Notebook LM and said, you're supposed to be really good at this, but ChatGPT gave me a better answer than you did. What's going on? And Notebook came back to me and said, I am so sorry. You are absolutely right. I should have written in your tone of voice better. And it gave me another answer that was so much better. I took that back to ChatGPT and said, you're being beat, dude. This guy has got you like hands. And the final result was like just competing those two against each other and telling them that, and I shared it. Even the one from Notebook was great. And I copied and pasted and said, look what it gave me. You're not even close. And it went, oh, you want to see what I can do? then down it goes, and it's just like I'm going, oh, this is great. So within a couple of iterations, I was instead of me fighting against, oh, you didn't give me that answer, could you try and do this more? I just went over to the other one and said, here's what they gave me, you're not good. And it went, oh, I'm so much better. And it was, so learned a new trick. Have them fight against each other.
Put a little competition into it. Yeah, right.
I did that with ChatGPT and Claude. It's been a while now, but we were doing a lot of work at the time with weight loss clinics with tirzepatide and semaglutide, things like that. And ChatGPT was saying, oh, I can't give medical advice. Okay, not trying to get medical advice. I just am looking for, ad copy and things like that, trying to work on that. And it just it would not do it. And so I went to Claude, and Claude did it reluctantly, kind of had to explain it a little bit. And so then I went back to ChatGPT and said, well, but Claude can do this. And it wasn't like it was this massive difference like you saw, John, but it was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do this little bit of it. And so it was really interesting. It's fascinating when they get competitive.
Yeah, I think they're being trained on the fact that people are jumping around. So I do think there's somewhere back in the coding where it's like, oh, no, you stick with me. I think they're adding more and more of that into the back end of the large language models. So I think we can play with that a little bit.
Well, I think that you bring a valid point too, not only playing, asking one versus the other, but one considering their knowledge background, because ChatGPT is August 2023. And then Claude is April of this year, as well as Perplexity as today. So, even realizing how far they'll go back is going to play key, and the drop-down models. So even as you're asking a prompt, consider changing to a mini, a 3-point, picking some of the other models in any of these systems, and you'll see the difference. So I think that's something too, is we just kind of get stuck in our own way, which is not a bad thing. As we're all getting started, or as we're talking to anybody or they're listening today, it's not a bad thing to stick with one model, one source, go for it and get something accomplished and feel like you give yourself grace for what you did accomplish. But that's some things to keep in mind too.
And that's maybe Chris has got a good answer to that. That's a confusing point to some people. Why are there different models? Like, you've played with a bunch of them. They're obviously trained differently, but the output, how would you explain to somebody why there's a 4.5 now and a 4.0 and a 4.0 mini and an 0.3 and all that kind of stuff?
I think that from my knowledge, from what I understand, I should probably ask ChatGPT this, right? What the difference is, but really, 0.3 is made for really deeper thinking, right? 4.0, which I think is the typical one that comes out when you just go to it, it's really good at getting tasks done, So, and that's really where, and you can float back and forth in between a single conversation, right? In all of those. The only difference is when you're in a custom GPT, I think it goes, and I had to ask ChatGPT this a long time ago, that what model do you use as a custom GPT? And I think it goes with the latest model. Whatever the latest model is, that's what it's going to use, whether it's good or bad. I mean, sometimes the latest model is like, it hasn't really been trained enough. It's kind of new. It's almost like a newborn, it seems like, or not a newborn, but, maybe a teenager, let's call it a teenager that thinks it knows everything. But, in all reality, anyways, not going to go too far and deep on that one, because I do have teenagers and I do get told, oh, Dad, you don't know anything kind of stuff.
No.
Yeah. But what I have been using lately, and I've been really using this quite a bit, is O3 combined with deep research, right? And I think I talked about this last week, but I've been really diving deep into competitive research for my clients lately, right? Figuring out, okay, well, what makes this website rank over this website right now inside of Google? And it's been coming back with some pretty deep and good information for me and for our clients. The thing is, you just have to wait for a little bit because it takes a while for it to think, but not too long, for the most part. It takes maybe 10 minutes sometimes on certain things. But
we talked about last week where that framework where you can ask a simple question, or you can say, if you gave me this answer as the suggestion, is the opposite, like, challenge it in that sort of like critical thinking first principles framework, is the opposite also the negative truth kind of idea. And well, no, wait a minute, that the opposite of that isn't a no, so let me think deeper. When you watch O3 and Deep Research doing its work, you can watch it iterate. Like when it does that little, like it's going, well, no, that doesn't work. Boom, and you can actually, if you, it's actually, and so that's part of the model changes, I think, as well, is they build in sort of deeper philosophical logic problem solving as well in the model, so that it's grabbing the same information from the same source, but it's thinking it through at different types of levels, and trained that way as well. So, yeah, which is helpful.
In this past week, I did a kind of a deep dive in between Manus, Deep Research inside of ChatGPT, and Grok Deep Research, to kind of see what the differences were. Honestly, ChatGPT came out the best, honestly, on what I felt was, now I didn't do your trick of going back and forth. I think that's my new hack there that I'm going to use from you, is to then make them compete against each other. But, when it comes to competitive research, and again, we're talking about marketing here, it is so important to know what the competitive landscape is. What exactly is your competitors doing? What's making it better here and producing a better result over here, right? And so when I'm looking right now, I'm specifically looking at Google and why they're ranking on Google Maps or inside of Google Organic, or maybe even inside of local service ads, right? Because those are the bigger areas on Google right now that are producing leads for our clients, for the roofers. So getting that knowledge and figuring out what keywords that people are using, right? And this is something that probably should be done periodically. And the cool thing is that 5 years ago, this would take weeks, maybe months, to really figure this all out, to do competitive research on 15, 20 different metros and, 5 different, leading competitors in those different metros would take months. But now it's taking a day, to do, with work of the LLMs doing all this stuff for you. So,
and how much is it changing with AI shopping agents, as an example? So like that's what right now today, Walmart and all of the major retailers are figuring out ways to adapt their entire websites, their entire coding, to fit into AI shopping agents that people are just starting to use because it's more convenient. So Laura, I mean, imagine farmers and stuff like that, where they've got an AI shopping agent that is buying the feed, buying the this, buying the that, like for them, because they know what it is. How would that change the ag business, and how does that change the agency world that needs to have their websites and things like that? Like think of what have you thought of in that world so far?
I know the one thing that we're talking more and more to them is that voice, as it was mentioned before, we might be using our phones to ask, asking our clients, hey, just interview, have that conversation with ChatGPT, have that to increase your comfort level. But we are looking at how we have to adapt websites in order for when they're sitting in the tractor, it's autonomous now. They might have the auto steer. They're not really, they're just hanging out there. That gives them an opportunity to say, wait a minute, this is the type of soil. It's, a wet spring, or it's, this is what's happening during harvest. Let me go ahead and search for upgrades. We need to have those websites ready. And that's what we're talking to our clients about is, let's have these conversations now in order to be in the forefront.
Yeah.
And it's coming.
Search, yeah. In voice search, I mean, in the marketing world, we've been talking about that for years, right? Because Siri's out there, Google Assistant's out there, but it's starting to become a reality.
We want them to come up with AI too. They need to be able to come up in the AI search. Just to John's point is, again, for that shopping, you've got the agents that will be going out there. They're asking us now is, okay, if I search for, my type of business, Jen, you may get this question. If someone's using any of the AI models, asking, hey, is there a med spa near me? Will we come up? or what will be presented. They're asking those questions.
Or is this solution the doctor suggested to me? Because I have no clue the words you say, Jen, when you mention all the different meds or protocols or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, somebody now walks out of a clinic and doesn't just go, or does the researcher has a conversation and doesn't go, okay, yep, I trust you 100% implicitly. It's now they're going to do an AI search to see if they got good advice, right? And what if the competitor is the answer to that question? Now they've lost the sale. So, right.
And they may not, they're not opening Google as often or making that the first choice all the time now. They are leaning towards an AI model. So, Brad, what are you thinking?
I'm just taking all this in because I always learn from you guys. I mean, just hearing the hacks and the suggestions and the different ideas that have already been brought up just in this last little while. I love the fact that it's recorded because it helps me. I can take this and put the video link into ChatGPT and it can summarize it for me. Or if it's on YouTube, you can have it summarized. But everything you guys have shared has been really good. And one thing that could be pretty cool that I've used before is, since our subject is prompting, and I know we've gone through a lot of different areas of that subject matter today. But think about this. If you're stuck on, oh, I don't really know how to prompt it right or whatever, ask it to write you some prompts. Say, what will be the best prompts to do XYZ, and try it out. It's literally like a little brain right there sitting next to you, ready to roll, whatever you want it to do.
How do I learn how to use ChatGPT? Ask ChatGPT to create a course for you on learning ChatGPT. A walkthrough. That's how you learn. It's nowhere else.
Yeah, it's funny when people ask simple questions. I'm like, well, how do I do this? How do I do that? Well, just think ahead a little bit, use your brain a little bit. And because you still have to have the human factor of you have to know how to prompt it and what to say and have some experience and some trial and error. But it's not rocket science at this point. It's becoming easier and easier to where I think prompts are important. And I think especially advanced prompts and different things are extremely important. Custom GPTs are important. But I just wonder, as everything evolves, if the ability to talk to your LLM, your GPT, to talk to it is probably going to become even simpler, where advanced prompts and some of those things, you won't even need it. You say, hey, what time is such and such and what's this? And it will just know. It won't even need an advanced prompt or a really nice prompt. It'll just do it. I see it getting less and less needy.
Well, Manus, you talked about that, Chris, and Manus it limits you to 1,000 characters. Like, it's like, don't give me a story, which is really hard for me, as we all know. So like, I was terrible. I had to go to ChatGPT and go, how do I say this in 1,000 characters? Just go back to Manus because I am terrible. So yeah, it's like it wants as little as possible and just, I'll figure it out for you. Go away, dude. Now I got it. Right. And it's like, so yeah, I believe your point, Brad. I think it's just going to become simpler and simpler. So.
And Manus is pretty good about asking you, right? You don't have to tell it to ask you, any clarifying questions. It automatically does that. It's built into it to do that. And I think,
with the logic,
honestly, like when we talk about future LLMs and future of these chat things and stuff like that, it's more and more going to become like Jarvis, right? Not the one that I used, but really the true Jarvis from Marvel that sits inside of, Iron Man's helmet and talks to him and hey, you've got an appointment coming up. And here's, I don't remember his fiance's name now, Ginger. No. But so-and-so is calling you, right? You want to pick it up? And he's like, no, tell her I'm doing something busy or something like that. But I kind of envision it eventually being something like that, honestly, and just little personal assistance that's doing whatever you need it to do.
And listening to everything that's happening so that again, we talked about that last week, but in context, if the more you can take data, these meetings, like Brad said, just he's going to take the YouTube after this and Crego summary notes, and now how do I use this, and ask more questions and come up with an action plan and things like that. And then again, anybody listening to this could do the exact same thing. But also in the meetings, being Zoom and stuff like that, all of those are starting to get the embeds of AI or any other tools that we have in there. Well, that becomes a library forever. So data is cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to store. It used to be really expensive. I remember the very first little, what was it? Probably maybe 32 megabyte thing that I got for my original digital camera. And it was like, that was expensive, and 32 megabytes. Nowadays you can get 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, the exact same size card. And it's like $30, right? And it's so data storage is cheap. And it's everywhere. So data is your friend. Everything that you can track and record, catalog, because you don't know when you're going to need it, and how AI can just go take all of that data and go, yep, here's it summarized for you. Here's spreadsheets, here's pivot tables, here's, whatever, here's a chart, here's what you should do next. Right. Yeah. So, it's data is your friend. Save it.
Even better, answer on your behalf. If you're a business owner, you're being pulled in 1,000 different directions every single day, right? Wouldn't it be great to have an assistant that knows everything that that is in your brain that you've talked about, right? That can answer your employees' questions, your customers' questions, everything, and that's the beauty. Now, here's what I'm waiting for. If we can hook something like that up to a video that then can come to meetings on my behalf and talk, and that's like the ultimate dream right there, right?
Is this Chris or Chris 2.0? Who are we talking to right now? I don't even know.
Are you really Chris, or are you not Chris?
I think I just saw you glitch for a second there.
I think Chris needs to provide us with the code words, just so we know it's him versus if it's not. We'll be like, Chris, orange,
I'm picturing your digital version of gone fishing sign.
Yes. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I will I have a hack for the week as well. But before with the prompt, the one thing I do, anybody that I'm trying to train up on doing prompts, I ask them what they want the end result to be. And I think that is a piece that we need to hit home of context is, what is the call to action? What's the end goal? Because it's like doing a recipe. If you want a cake, cook a recipe for a cake. Don't just come with all these ingredients. So be very clear when you're asking what you want the end goal to be. So that's just a tip. But for the Google Notebooks, like you mentioned, there's only 50 that you can go ahead, sources that you can add, except the Google Docs. So if you are doing transcripts for videos, load them all to that one doc to help you out. And then that'd be one source. So for any trainings, if there might be multiple day videos, add that all with one. Or if there's a bunch of prompts that you're collecting, instead of saying each prompt and then also you're like 50's gone, you can go ahead and add all of them to the one page. And to one up that, add that as tabs to the side. And therefore you'll know where to go, and you've got them indexed. So think of it as your, remember our subject notebooks that we used to have in school, where it have different tabs. You'd be able to pull that different area, but you'll be able to load your Google LM a lot, or your notebook LMs with a lot more information.
Great hack.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll close out with that. I mean, how do you top that, Laura? I mean,
well, I think that with Jen, earlier in this conversation, one of our next podcasts will be about training and tips on how to better train, so that, our listeners can fully understand what they might have to pull together in order to have their voice. And to Chris's point, that he can have his gone fishing sign, knowing things are trained up for him. And, John's got all his customer care coming, and Brad's got all his knowledge loaded to fully train. So I think that would be a great podcast.
I see semi-retirement on the horizon real quick at this rate. Perfect.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming and sharing everything, all these little secrets, these little tips, these hacks, right? That everyone brought to the table here. I hope if you're watching this, listening to this, that you're getting some sort of a value from this. Be sure to hit subscribe, like this, leave a comment down below, all those kinds of things, just so that we can get the word out on this and keep on showing up. We're going to be doing this every week, and we're going to talk about all sorts of geeky, by the way, Brad over here doesn't like the word geek, so sorry about that, Brad. But
wisdom. We're going to have
wisdom. There you go. We're going to share
Yes.
hacks, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff for
expertise.
There you go. We're going to share all that kind of stuff for y'all. Okay, so keep on showing up.